Hello, this is Alan Wheeler on my channel where I talk about spirituality and the tarot. And it's raining today, so I'm inside recording rather than out in the nice yard. I'm here at my altar with some incense going, a candle burning, and what I've done is gotten together some journal notes from about 5 visualizations I've had in meditation, and I've drawn cards from the Tarot of Vampyres to help me think through each of those little trance visions. So this is, I haven't rehearsed this, although I have the cards drawn and the notes here. So the first one morning, looks like it was the 17th, May 17th, in my morning meditation, I had the visualization of a swordfish in a swimming pool, and it was just about as big as that swimming pool. And somehow I just had a sense of knowing that that swordfish was free from the open sea. It was kind of like a fish represents the soul, the heart, but yet that sword, a clear-cutting message. The swimming pool, though, gave me the sense of a YMCA, that smell of chlorine, that four-sided confinement, that cubic prison it was in. And it gave me that feeling of social pressure of a day camp or summer camp when you're a kid. School, training, rigidity. And it kind of came to mind as I had been working with the Thoth Tarot, and I may do a video on how I'm engaging with that as well soon. But I had been invoking Hermes, Thoth, Mercury, and feeling that presence in meditation, working with those cards. And it came to mind how this fish, this sharp message from the heart, but in this confinement, it's kind of like that sonnet form for poetry, like Petrarch's poetry, full of love for his dream, Lady Laura, but yet it's in that very rigid form, as opposed to something like the free verse of Walt Whitman. And so capturing that love in that poem is like that swordfish brought in from the wild sea. And similarly, I thought the Thoth deck is like an very analytical structure, using all that Kabbalah and Hebrew letters and astrological associations. Very systematic, and yet the Book of Thoth is this prophetic prose, and there's untamed energies within that system. So the card I drew from Tarot of Vampyres, I'm afraid I've gotten them out of order here. Wow, I really have. Okay. Okay, sorry, there. The card I drew from Tarot of Vampyres was the Ten of Scepters. And in other decks, it often shows a figure burdened by carrying 10 big staves. And in this case, it shows a woman fighting at the giving her very last burst of energy in a battle with that scepter there. And to me, that just says how this, how it's a lot of work, and it can be wearing and wearying to work with structures like these. And so maybe that's a warning to watch out for, to keep the pace and to keep the hope when working through that difficult system, at least for me, not burning out on that very kind of difficult and heavy process. So that's the card from Tarot of Vampires. The next little vision I'll read here. And looks like it may have been later the same day, on May 17th. And in this visualization, I saw a building rising up, brick and mortar. Now, often these, in the beginning, they're very scattered, and I have to kind of take a leap of faith to and let go of expectations to let things begin forming and making sense. But I saw brick and mortar around a cornerstone, and then I saw the cornerstone is actually a pool of swirling water, tornado-shaped, like a wormhole to other dimensions. The walls and the halls of this temple were actually still lines on a map, like a baseball field or like a diagram of that tree of life from the Kabbalah. And around the map were sitting old men in robes, each with a beard, a long beard coming down, but each beard was swirling like the wormhole cornerstone. Very strange picture there. And so I drew 3 cards from the Tarot of Vampires here. And the first was the Ace of Knives. And as in many other decks, it's kind of tells me that that map of a temple with that cornerstone that was like a living pool is kind of like the effective, when we have a effective communication expressed by the Ace of Knives, when we have a good design there, that it actually brings in something from other dimensions. It's how language works. And so a very abstract picture of how words and descriptions that we put together, systems really of language, actually bridge into the astral, into the future, into the past, and actually communicate things from other realms than just the realm of language and words. So that kind of focused the picture for me. And then in the Tarot of Vampires, the 2 of Skulls. Skulls are the coins in that deck. And the 2 of Skulls gives kind of a yin and yang imagery. Now, in most decks, there's a kind of a juggling of two things going on, or a balancing of two things. But this card, a friend of mine said, he thinks this may be the most balanced card in the Tarot of Vampyres, as it shows the woman in a white dress looking into the mirror, and there she is with the dark dress and the darkness in the foreground balancing with the light in the mirror. And so to me it speaks of those men sitting around the map and how they each have a perception. Maybe they're working together to design that religion or that system, that philosophy, whatever that map represents. It's an integration of various people's experiences there. And it takes their combined work to make a map of that, because they each have their own ideas going on there, represented by those beards, those tornado beards swirling like wormholes, and working that all together like the blind men and the elephant. And the last card is the Four of Grails, which are cups in the Tarot of Vampyres, and it shows the satiation of that vampire as he's drinking that blood, and the victim there looks very relaxed as well. And it's kind of the cycle of hunger and fulfillment going on there. And it may this may speak of, again, how wearying and how wearing that kind of work can be, and working those men working together to synthesize their ideas into kind of some kind of group consensus. So we have personal gnosis, and if we make trips in the astral or in our imagination or just in creating art, and then we, at the same time, we negotiate with the group who work in a similar genre or who share a similar religion or work in a similar system such as tarot, and we negotiate meaning. And this may go in cycles of really wanting to acquire that wisdom, to find that so-called truth or system, and being satiated, being just tired of that work. A lot to think about there. Let me read another one. And this was the next day, May 18th, a mountain near the top. It appears in the rock a large, huge toe, heel, what seems to be a huge foot. It's hard to tell if the mountaintop is composed of the foot or contains it, but then the foot seems to be clouds, as though a god had descended. A pagan magician or priest stands beside, maybe inside the cloud, with one hand raised upwards and one down, as above, so below. So the card I drew for this strange scene was the Ten of Skulls. And it may be hard to see there, but in the upper corner there are 10 roses, and showing that the ace of this suit which I believe features a single rose, if I remember correctly, has fully manifested into the 10, and it's time for a new cycle to begin. So this deck is heavily influenced by the Thoth system, and so that lowest Sephiroth on the Tree of Life is that 10. That's the fullest physical manifestation of the energy that's represented in the skull suit especially. And so going back to that image of the kind of transcendental cloud descending like a foot upon that mountaintop, and that priest or that magician channeling that, this card is kind of affirming that, yes, that's the bringing this idea, this energy into the physical realm is pictured there. And it's a little bit different than the Rider-Waite-Smith version that displays this in heritage as this wealthy woman sits on her throne amongst the things that she's acquired there, and with a huge skull overflowing with that life-giving blood or drink, whatever that may be there. Okay, one or two more here quickly. So the next one, in some public place, maybe a Walmart, four-legged beasts are wearing cloth which completely covers their fur and their heads. Only their animal eyes are showing. A character from the television show Community appears, Abed, as a narrator explaining this trope. Comes from George Orwell's Animal Farm. And that when the animals took over the farm and started walking around like humans and did away with the humans. So if that hadn't arisen in the visualization, I wouldn't have understood that, maybe. The creatures were hiding their nature and posing as something higher. They did seem to be separating. Well, I'm sorry, they did seem to be operating in a civilized marketplace. And I drew a few cards for this scene, and it was the Death card from Tarot of Vampyres, the Five of Grails, and the Prince of Skulls. So what's going on with these figures who are kind of hiding or doing away with their instincts and their animal nature? They're dying to a part of what they are. There's sorrow in the Five of Grails as this transitional creature, this shapeshifter. Her cup has spilled, it's empty, the fountain behind her is broken. The pentacle tattooed here on her shoulder is reversed, showing that maybe she's obsessed with the material, or this is what has been lost. And the feeling of sadness accompanying that. So focusing that Death card on the loss, something has been left behind, and grieving. And here, looking back at this whole situation, is the Prince of Skulls. And he's got his hand over the candle that's coming out of that skull there. And I know from the guidebook that this character is in love with Mother Earth. And he's dressed richly and is in tune with that physical, material nature. But he's looking back at this, those who are trying to die or do away with that, cover that up. So there's food for thought there. One last one. This was on the 19th, just the other day. I was drifting back asleep after worrying about some things at work, and it was kind of a half dream state. And in that dream, I was turning on the road to our house in my car at dusk. I couldn't see very well. I couldn't control the car very well, if you've had those kind of dreams. And I didn't even know if I was fitting between two parked cars. I couldn't see. I just went for it. As I turned, I saw flashing lights of police cars. I barely missed hitting one, and I was about to crash into the back of a black pickup truck when the scene froze and I woke up. But in that moment, or several moments, the scene was perfectly clear and lucid frozen, the back of that black pickup truck. And even after I felt I was fully awake, I could still see that whole scene there. A while later, in kind of true meditation, I had a picture of the dark goddess piercing me in the side with a long red fingernail. And next I could see it as a sword going into me. And next, as a vampire sinking teeth into my neck. Maybe too much dealing with the tarot of vampires here. And the card I drew to understand these two visions was the Lovers. And in Tarot of Vampires, like in some other decks, the lovers are coming together and actually exchanging qualities. So the Emperor is taking the darkness of the Empress. And you can see from her picture on the cover of the box, she has dark hair here and a green heart. A green heart worn around her neck. But in the card, you can see that her heart has taken on the red of the Emperor's. His heart has taken on her green. They've exchanged hair color. And so, whether it's engaging in a spiritual passion or one with an art or endeavor or with another person, sometimes love can feel like we're taking on those qualities of the thing that we love. And so there's a real sharing and a real integration going on. And I think it may be telling me that maybe this is what happens when we have anxieties, dreams, whether they're nightmares or hopeful dreams. There's this kind of exchange going on. This that the dreams and the nightmares are like a gift, like a penetrating sword, or coming into it, messages, almost experiences that help us integrate these things. And whatever the emotion, it's kind of an exchange of love. And so the personified deity, bringing that forth is kind of showing a psychological or spiritual process that's going on. So I will stop there, and I thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you feel connection with people in your life, with online community, and on your spiritual path, whatever that might be. Take care.